Hello, this is Amanda, the Nerdy Krafter, and for some reason the audio did not record today, so I'm going to go ahead and do a voiceover and talk you through these cards. So here are the first two that I did, and I'm just flipping through and showing all of the amazing bunnies that I have in my collection. And I don't understand why this month has seemed like it's the biggest challenge. I just could not decide which bunny I wanted to use. I think I just had so many and I kind of got into decision overload. So I'm just flipping through all of these and I'm like, which one am I going to use? This is from the original set. This is, I think, the very first set that I got. I got the original foliage, flowers, the critters, and then the container set. I got the little wood stump with the boots and stuff, and I love it to pieces. And I kept going back, which one do I want to do? And this little planter one is the one that won my heart. So I ended up going ahead and doing that. And I'm thinking that at one of these weeks, I'm going to do that little pumpkin. I know we're so far, I think so we're so far away from Halloween, but that pumpkin bunny is just stinking cute. So week 1, week 2, throw those aside. I was originally going to do, the planter one, but decided to do this one instead. So, I didn't even remember which one I did. I'll do the planter one next week. So I, like always, I start with my ATC size card. I like just a small image that I can quickly get done. I don't get overwhelmed by a full card front. So that helps a ton. And what I'm showing here is I went through and Sharpied the set number on the back of my rubber stamps. So that way, if that stamp gets moved out or left out for some reason, I can get it back into which set it goes with. And when I'm using a lot of different sets and have them scattered all over my desk, that is so helpful. I saw it once on one of the Facebook groups, and I'm like, that is exactly what I would do. Now, I did it for a lot of my older sets, and I have not kept up on it, so that's on my bad. The sets that I'm going to bring in for this one is the Bible Foliage set. I absolutely love this set. It has 3 sets in one. So it has the original grass, the vine, and the shrub from like the original flower set. It has the branches and the branches from the branch set, and then the trees, both the wood bark tree and then the little evergreen tree in the bottom right corner. So I love this set. It is definitely one I recommend if you are just starting out and you don't want to go buy 3 sets. Buy this one set. Cost is just a hair higher than an individual set, but you get 3 sets in one. So definitely worth it. I'm just going to pull out my blocks here. And we are going to start crafting. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the bunny first, because then I can mask it off and then put the tree behind it. So I'm kind of using inspiration from the picture that's with that set. There was a little deer sitting underneath a tree. So I'm like, you know what? I like that. Let's go with that for the bunnies. So that's kind of where we're at. So now I'm deciding what color that I want this bunny to be. And I want the bunny to be more of a brown color. So I'm going to do the 2 color process. I'm going to put the blue on first and then the brown. I do stamp off after each color with the red rubber. With the photopolymer, I generally only stamp off after the first color. I don't do a second stamp off. That one, you can see there was a lot of extra heavy ink on there. So I did go ahead and stamp off twice because I did not want to bring that really heavy blob of ink onto the front here. So I'm just lining up my bunny, letting it sit for a minute. It looks like I'm pressing hard. I am not. It's just a light pressure on there. So the bunny is very light on here, which is going to be absolutely so helpful for when you start watercoloring it and pulling the color out of the lines, that you're not getting a large amount of color out, just a little bit to kind of give you those highlight areas. So I'm bringing in my Post-it note tape so that I can mask that bunny off. You can stamp directly onto the Post-it note tape and fussy cut it out. That's what I'm showing there. I'm just a little lazy, so I just throw the Post-it note tape on top and away we go. So with the tree, this is an alive item, so I'm going to do the 2 color process, blue first, then brown second. So I'm stamping off again. Stamp off that blue. Make sure when you're doing this, you're on the side of the pen and not stabbing the tip. You don't want to break down that tip. And I think I've only had to replace, I think only that blue. That's the only blue that I've had to replace in my collection, and I've been watercoloring for a long time with these pens. So they do last a really, really, really long time. So again, just pressing it on there, giving it a second to work its way in. And then I'm going to come in and add in some of the grass, some of the flowers. So I'm pulling the grass out of the Bible journaling foliage set. And then I'm going to pull the flowers from the Bible foliage set, or flower set also. So I'm masking off the bunny real quick because I want some grass to be like behind its head. Again, drawing inspiration from the packaging. There was some little grass kind of behind the bunny there. And it did not get super close, so I'm just going to come in and just add just a teeny bit closer. I didn't mask it off right next to it because, again, I was just being lazy and didn't want a fussy cut, which I refer to also as cussy cutting. So I'm using, the green I'm using is the 177. I go back and forth between the 177 and the 249. Both of them are absolutely beautiful. And when I go to the tree, I'm going to use a combination of both of them right on the stamp itself. But again, stamp it once and then 5 generations of stamping. That gives you the gradation of shade, similar to if you're using 2 or 3 different markers. So for the tree, there's a couple different ways you can do it. You can bring in the vine and just use the tip of the vine. You can use the daisy flower from the foliage set, or you can use the bush from the original foliage set or the Bible journaling foliage set. So a lot of times I do use that little daisy stamp. I use that one all the time. That's the grass and that daisy set are kind of my core that I pull out and use very frequently. But I decided to go a little bit different today, and I decided to go with the foliage stamp. So with this one, again, just ink it up. I'm using the 249 and the 177, put it right on there. When I do my first stamp, I'm going to do it more in the middle of the tree because the inside of the tree is where the darkest is going to be. That's where all the shadows and everything from the foliage are going to be right there in the center. And the lighter is going to be on the outside. So that's where the light's actually hitting it, and then it's darker on the inside. So when I do the stamping, I do try to keep that first generational stamping towards the inside of the tree trunk, and then lighter as we go out. Again, 5 times. And then maybe a little 6th one right there because it just need a little fill in. So I do try sometimes to get all of my stamping done first and then go back in and start watercoloring. And the reason why I do that is because when you start to watercolor, things start to expand out and you lose room to put in your flowers, or you lose room to put in your next elements. So just depending on what I'm working on, I may, watercolor, then stamp, then watercolor, then stamp. This one I went ahead and I'm stamping everything, and then I'm going to go back in and watercolor. So right now I'm rubbing off the bottom of that stamp because I'm going to put some on the right hand side of that, and I don't need the stems to be as long. I'm using the purple, the 636, and then the 249, and just placing that. So I'll do 2 to 3. Sometimes with these little long stem flowers, I can only get 1 or 2 really good images out of it. By the time you do the 3rd or 4th generation of it, it's so light that you really can't see it. So I generally keep to about 2, sometimes 3. And I do like to do things in odd numbers, 3s, 5s, 7s. So I went ahead and added another cluster onto the left-hand side to give it that 3. Your eyes rotate very well when there's odd numbers on there. So when you're putting your embellishments on, same kind of thing. So I'm activating my brush here, getting everything ready, pinching off the extra water, and then I'm going to come in and start watercoloring. The first thing I want to do, though, is build my brown for my bunny. So that's 2 lines of the brown and a half line of the blue. And I will mix those together. I'm just rubbing a little bit extra water here and then mix those together. And then I'm going to tap that off a few times because I really don't want a lot on my brush. And I think I actually even pinched off some of it. So it was very, very light. Now, I do tend, when I'm watercoloring for you guys on my camera, things are light. They're lighter when you try to watercolor through a camera lens. So I do tend to go a little bit darker than I would for my everyday watercoloring. So just know that I don't always start off right away picking up, but I knew that this was a very light image. I didn't pull a lot of color. I'd stamped it off twice. So I knew I was going to be bringing some additional color in off of my palette for that purpose. The little feet area, the bottom side of the bunny, his bum that's hidden behind the grass, that's all going to be a darker area. The top of the bunny, and I always try to keep that bunny face really light. It just helps it pop off the page, gives it some dimension. The ears, anything that is under or below is going to be darker. So we're just kind of utilizing that methodology. I know we've talked about light source in the past, bringing in some pink, and I'm going to water that pink down because it is a bright pink, and just giving some little cheeks. And then the inside of the ears, I think I missed the ears and go back and do that in just a second. And I'm going to come in and just darken up the eyes, the nose, sketch in a few of the lines. When I come back in and bring some of the lines back in, I kind of do it rough. So I'm not hitting every line. I'm not tracing over everything. I kind of give it a little choppy look to it. So that way it looks natural. It looks, realistic in the fact that it's not perfect. It's not a stamped image. So it kind of looks like I sketched it versus just using a stamp. Kind of a little tip there. And then I don't have to be perfect. If it's a little choppy, if the lines aren't exact, I'm not drawing a straight line. It helps with the illusion of handmade. So I'm coming in here, just tapping in my brush. I'm going to come in and extend out the grass. And I use Kendra's methodology on the grass, kind of really long, really tall, squiggle some lines underneath it to give it a base to stand on because, again, we don't want the grass or the bunny floating out in outer space. When the grass stops moving, I grabbed a little bit more water there. So that's kind of my hint when things are not moving, I'm not pulling any color out, that I need a little bit more water. So I'm going to pull in some of that brown mixture that I made for the bunny and just build some ground. And I do kind of like a little tornado twirl back and forth underneath. Going to come in and darken up that branch a little bit. And then I'm going to bring my brown twin tone in and bring some of those branches that got hidden beneath the foliage and kind of sketch them in a little bit, bring them back, bring a little bit of sketching on the bark of the tree, darken that up a little bit, again, make it look a little natural. And then I'm just going to pop in some of the purple, and I hit the flowers themselves. I don't hit the stems, and I go outside. So I go sit on the outside so it looks like there's more, gives the illusion of there being more. And I think we're getting pretty close to being done. We're just going to do our wet on wet technique for the sky. And you can see I'm just putting in oodles of water here. I call it blobs of water. And what that allows to happen is when I bring my blue in for the sky, one, I have my brush wet, so I didn't pinch off this time. And when I set the water, the color down, it allows it to kind of move and flow. So it gets organic with the water. So the water does part of the work of helping blend these in. So, and it will also dry back a little bit. So as this dries over the next 24 hours, the color will come down a little, which is nice because right now it is a bright blue, but it will tone itself down over the next day, which is really, really cool. I like to bring in the darker, the 526, and I put those in, like, under the tree is going to be the darker. Under, at the bottom of the clouds is going to be darker because the sun's coming through the top of them. It's just that's how I convince my brain. That's the story that I tell myself. And so I just like the gradation of those two colors and blended together. So I plop a little in there and then blend them together to kind of make it smooth out a little. You don't have to go from edge to edge of the paper to top to bottom. You just need an illusion of the sky and your eyes will do the rest of the work for you. Of course, as always, we sign and date our works because these are one of the kind of original artworks, and that is what we have. So just placing it here on a little card base so you can kind of see that, bringing it up close so you can see the cute little bunny. Oh my gosh, it's absolutely adorable. You can also bring in, if you have like a Wink of Stella glitter pen, you can bring in some glitter, add a little bit of that. Sometimes when I'm hitting the flowers, I will bring that in and do that on the flowers instead of my my brush, because I'll use that to watercolor, quote unquote, my flowers instead of using water itself. So thank you so much for joining me. This is such an amazing journey. I am loving these little vignettes that I'm putting together every week for you. Come back again and see me next week. And I'm so excited. So I will see you next week. Have a great week. Bye.